Most people live their entire lives in a prison with the door wide open. We walk around in circles, staring at the walls, complaining about the confinement, begging for someone to come and save us. We blame the economy. We blame our parents. We blame the government. We blame our lack of education or our lack of capital. We are convinced that the key to our freedom lies in the hands of someone else. We think, if only I had $1 million, then I would be happy. If only I had that connection, then I would be successful. We live in the conditional tense, waiting for the external world to arrange itself perfectly so that we may finally feel peace. But the greatest tragedy of the human experience is not that we are trapped, it is that we are free, and we refuse to see it. We are like a bird in a cage that has no bars, yet we never fly. Why? Because the cage is not made of iron. It is made of thoughts. It is made of beliefs. It is made of a mindset that tells us we are small, weak, and dependent. Today, we are going to shatter that cage. We are going to look at the ancient story of the beggar and the stranger, a story that exposes the root cause of poverty, not the poverty of the pocket, but the poverty of the mind. There was once an old beggar who had sat by the side of a dirt road for over 30 years. He was a fixture of the landscape, like a withered tree or a crumbled stone. He wore rags that were stiff with dirt. His hair was matted, his face etched with the deep lines of misery and sun exposure. Every single day, he sat on an old, beat-up wooden box. He didn't know where the box came from. He had just found it there decades ago and used it as a seat. It was his only furniture, his only comfort in the harsh world. As travelers passed by, the beggar would hold out a rusty metal baseball cap and mechanically repeat the same phrase he had said 1,000,000 times. Spare some change? A copper for an old man? Help a poor soul. Some people threw him a coin out of pity. Some looked away in disgust. Most simply ignored him, treating him as invisible. He lived on the scraps of others' generosity, believing that his survival depended entirely on what the world decided to drop into his rusty cap. He defined himself by his lack. He was a beggar. That was his identity. That was his story. One sunny afternoon, a stranger came walking down the road. The stranger looked different. He didn't look wealthy in the traditional sense, no silks or jewels, but he walked with an upright posture, a brightness in his eyes, and an energy that seemed to vibrate with life. The beggar, seeing a potential target, automatically held out his cap. Spare some change? He mumbled. I am hungry. I have nothing. The stranger stopped. He looked deep into the beggar's eyes, a look that made the old man uncomfortable. The stranger smiled gently and said, I have nothing to give you. The beggar's face fell. He began to lower his hand, cursing under his breath. Another useless passerby. But the stranger didn't leave. He pointed to the object the beggar was sitting on. What is that you are sitting on? He asked. The beggar shrugged, irritated. It's just an old box. I've been sitting on it for 30 years. It's trash. Just like me. The stranger tilted his head. Have you ever looked inside? The beggar laughed, a dry, rasping sound. No, he said. Why would I? It's empty. It's just wood. Don't waste my time. The stranger insisted. Look inside, he commanded softly but firmly. Open it. The beggar, perhaps just to get the annoying stranger to leave, decided to humor him. He stood up, his joints popping with age. He looked at the box. It was covered in layers of dust and grime. He pried at the lid. The hinges were rusted shut. He grunted, using his fingernails, struggling with the wood. Finally, with a loud crack, the lid gave way. The beggar pushed it open. He peered inside, expecting to see cobwebs or emptiness. Instead, he gasped. He fell back, his eyes wide with shock. A beam of golden light reflected off his dirty face. The box was filled to the brim with gold. Ancient coins, jewels, gold bars, a fortune worthy of a king. For 30 years, the beggar had been sitting on a treasure that could have bought the entire kingdom. He had been begging for pennies from strangers while his own ass was resting on millions. He had lived in misery, hunger, and desperation, not because he was poor, but because he never looked inside the foundation he was already standing on. We are the beggar. And the box is our mind. This story is a mirror. How many of us go through life begging for validation? Please tell me I'm good enough. Please give me a like. Please hire me. Please love me. We beg for opportunities. We beg for luck. We act as if we are empty vessels that need to be filled by the outside world. We believe that value is something we must acquire, rather than something we already possess. We sit on the box of our own potential, our unique talents, our creativity, our resilience, our human consciousness, and we say, it's just an old box. We ignore the gold mine within because we are too busy looking at the dirt road without. We are convinced that the solution to our problems is out there. If I just get that promotion. If I just move to that city. If I just find that partner. But the stranger, who represents the voice of wisdom, the voice of the higher self, is telling you right now, stand up and open the box. Let's break down the mechanics of this. Why do we stay poor in spirit? It comes down to the reticular activating system, RAS. This is a bundle of nerves at our brainstem that filters out unnecessary information so the important stuff gets through. Your RAS is your brain's bouncer. If you believe you are a victim, if you believe the world is scarce and hostile, your RAS will literally filter out opportunities. You could walk past $1 million idea and not see it, because your brain is programmed to look for misery. You are the beggar sitting on the gold, unable to see it because you believe you are destitute. If you believe you are unlucky, your brain will highlight every red light, every bill, every rejection, and ignore the green lights, the checks, and the open doors. You create a self-fulfilling prophecy. The beggar didn't look in the box because his belief system told him it was empty. His mindset created his reality. If he had believed he was wealthy, he would have been curious. He would have checked. Changing your mindset is not just positive thinking or fluffy motivational talk. It is a biological and structural necessity for changing your life. You cannot outperform your own self-image. If you see yourself as a struggling entrepreneur, you will subconsciously sabotage success to stay aligned with that identity. If you see yourself as bad with money, you will find a way to lose it as soon as you get it. You have to change the software if you want a different output on the screen. The gold in the box represents your internal resources. It represents your ability to learn, your ability to adapt, your ability to solve problems. In the information age, ignorance is a choice. You have access to the sum of human knowledge in your pocket. You can learn coding, marketing, psychology, or finance for free. The gold is there. The question is, are you willing to pry open the rusted lid? Are you willing to do the work of self-discovery? Consider the story of Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps. He was stripped of everything: his family, his clothes, his dignity, his name. He was a beggar in the most extreme sense. But he realized that the guards could take everything from him except one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. He realized he was sitting on a box of gold called mental freedom. He decided that even in hell, he could choose his own mind. He visualized himself teaching his students about the psychology of the camps after the war. He found meaning in the suffering. And he survived when stronger men died. Why? Because his mindset was invincible. He knew the treasure was inside him, not in the bread he was given or the warm coat he didn't have. If a man in a concentration camp can control his mindset, what excuse do you have in a traffic jam? What excuse do you have when the Wi-Fi is slow? The transition from beggar to king starts with a shift in language. Stop saying I can't. Start saying how can I? Stop saying I have to. Start saying I get to. Stop asking why is this happening to me? And start asking what is this trying to teach me? When you shift from a victim mentality to a creator mentality, the lid of the box starts to crack open. You stop asking the world for permission. You stop waiting to be picked. You pick yourself. The beggar waits for a coin. The king mints his own. The beggar reacts. The king proacts. You have to decide, today, right now, which one you are going to be. Are you going to spend the next 30 years complaining about the box you are sitting on, or are you going to open it? This is particularly crucial for entrepreneurs. Business is 80% psychology and 20% mechanics. Strategy is easy. Execution is hard. And execution is driven by mindset. When you launch a product and it fails, the beggar mindset says, see? I knew I was a failure. The market is rigged. I give up. The gold mindset says, okay, that didn't work. What is the data telling me? What can I improve? I am one step closer to the solution. The external event is the same, the product failed. But the internal reaction dictates the future. The beggar quits and stays poor. The gold miner digs deeper and finds the vein. Resilience is simply the refusal to let your external circumstances dictate your internal state. The most dangerous addiction in the world is the addiction to comfort. The beggar was comfortable. Sure, he was miserable, but he knew the routine. He knew the dirt road. He knew the script. Opening the box is terrifying. Because if you find the gold, you have no more excuses. If you realize you have the power, you can no longer blame your boss. You can no longer blame your spouse. You have to take extreme ownership of your life. That is a heavy burden. But it is the burden of freedom. Many people would rather stay in the familiar darkness than step into the blinding light of their own potential. Do not be one of them. The pain of regret weighs tons, the pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of opening the rusted lid is temporary, the wealth inside is eternal. So, how do you open the box? You start by auditing your thoughts. Listen to the voice in your head. Is it a critic or a coach? Is it an abuser or a friend? Most of us talk to ourselves in a way we would never let a stranger talk to us. You're stupid. You're fat. You'll never make it. That is the rust on the lock. You have to sand that rust away with gratitude and affirmation. You have to flood your mind with high-quality inputs. Stop watching the news. Stop listening to gossip. Read books by people who have opened their boxes. Listen to podcasts that expand your vision. Surround yourself with people who talk about ideas, not other people. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes us. If you hang out with 5 beggars, you will be the 6th. If you hang out with 5 gold miners, you will be the 6th.